In this video, we'll be looking at one possible option of how to process XML files using Cloud Dataprep. In this case, we'll use a Google Cloud function to first convert the XML file to JSON format, and then we'll be wrangling that data using Cloud Dataprep, and then run a job and output the result to BigQuery. So what we have here is the Google Cloud function. It's actually very straightforward. As you can see, this is all the code that you need. There's a couple of functions in here. There is an XML to JSON function, which takes in an XML string and returns a JSON string. It's a simple dump of a JSON as an output. And secondly, there is this function, which is essentially doing this operation on GCS, where it waits for a file to be uploaded. And as soon as that file is uploaded, it will perform the XML to JSON operation and store the JSON file on GCS. So this cloud function has been deployed in my project, in my Google Cloud project. So with that out of the way, the next step is to then actually upload the files into GCS. So that's what I'll do next. And we'll be using the gsutil command line utility to do that. And it's a couple of simple copy commands. In this case, I have file1 and file2, both of which have been uploaded to the cloud, my cloud storage bucket. Now, if I take a look at my cloud storage bucket, which is called XML JSON to JSON in this case, you will notice that it will now contain the JSON files. It has automatically performed the conversion. That's what the cloud function did. So I can see that the JSON files are stored there. Now, that's all great. I can now go to the Cloud Dataprep UI. I can create a new flow. I'm going to call this XML Quinix. And I can add my data sets. And go to xml.json, and here are my JSON files. So I can pick up these two JSON files. And they're now available. I can build a recipe off of this. So I'm going to start with file1. Now, this is standard JSON wrangling, which Cloud Dataprep handles quite well. So right now, my data is in the form of a JSON string. I can start by converting it to an object and start parsing out this object. As you can see, I have the ability to browse my JSON string. In this particular case, I'm just going to pull out a few key columns. So in particular, I'm going to pull out the fix part into its own column. So I'm going to apply the unnest suggestion to do that. And convert this to an object. And from this particular object, I'm going to pull out two specific columns. So I'm going to pull out the name and I will also pull out the URL. And this is just an example. You can pretty much pick and choose which columns you're interested in and selectively extract those. So now that I have the columns that I need, I'm going to basically delete everything else. So I'll basically just select these are the columns I care about. I'm going to pick delete columns and delete everything else. The last thing I'm going to do here is I'm also going to rename these columns to something more friendly. So I can do that using the rename columns transformation. This first column, I'm going to call it part. It actually has nested information for the part. The second column, I'm going to call it URL. And the third column, I will call this name. Now, so this is my recipe. I have created this script that basically parses this XML that was converted to JSON and extracts these three columns. I can now go ahead and run a job and store this output into BigQuery. So that's what I'm going to do next. Instead of GCS, I'm going to add a publishing action, choose BigQuery as the destination. And within here, I actually have a parts table, and I will choose to append to the parts table. So this is fairly straightforward. I can set my destination, I can choose my machine type, and I can run a job. Now, this is what we did for file 1. File 2 will follow a similar process, so we can go through exactly the same type of steps in order to transform the data and then append the output of that to the BigQuery table. And by doing that, we will be able to merge the contents of both of these tables. And at the end of the day, I'm going to quickly show you what the resulting output looks like. So if I do a select star from default parts, you'll see that it contains the combined output from both the files. So I have my part, URL, and name from file 1 as well as file 2, and they have been combined into this output. So hopefully this gives you an idea of how you can handle XML data and process it using Cloud Data Prep. Thank you for watching.